Hello everyone, Tremaine Hayhoe here, and welcome back to Movie Day, the day where we talk about movies. I'm your host, Tremaine Hayhoe from Hayhoe Studios. Today, we are talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yes, that is a pretty long title, aka Mission Impossible 7, starring Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, and a couple of newcomers. We are going to talk about Haley Atwell. There we go. Okay. There we go. Vanessa Kirby, Palm Clemente, I don't know, Essay Morales Gabriel, and it is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who he has directed the last few installments of this series. And I must say, every single time they push the limits of the movie. They push the limits of where this character can go, what this character can do, what the mission is, and where they go. And I must say, this franchise is one of those franchises where it's if people haven't watched it, they kind of zone out because it came out with a bang in 1993, and 30 years ago now, which is crazy. The first one came out, everyone loved it. Then the second one came out, and John Woo, I love that soundtrack. Then the third one came out, and that was J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams had a really handheld, gritty style to it. And then, got 4 or 5. 5 years ago now was Fallout, which was 6, which was my favorite one up until this one. And I must say, especially for the last 3, if you look at the last 3, they really try hard to outdo each other. And I must, storyline-wise, action, thriller, this movie had pretty much everything in it. It was the one movie I've been really looking forward to with the summer blockbuster hits. The one, I guess the early summer to launch it off was the Super Mario Brothers movie. Highly enjoyed that movie, but as a live-action thriller, Tom Cruise does not disappoint. You can just tell every single time he is giving it his all with the character, with the story, with the action. He is he never phones it in ever. And you can see what they do with the stunts and how much effort it takes from the car chase, from the opening scene. And I won't go into too many spoilers. I'll just kind of, if you've seen a Mission Impossible movie, you can kind of get the gist. A lot of them are very similar. I'm not going to say they're all the exact same. They're not. They're similar, though. But the way they execute this one was really masterful. And if you look at every single, if you look at the Mission Impossibles leading up to last one, Fallout had the incredible halo jump where he skydives, basically high altitude, low opening, high altitude, low opening, where they do a crazy high dive, skydive, and film it, and he really did it, and then you open up really low. So it's a spy tactic that I guess spies use, and of course Tom Cruise can do it. And watching behind the scenes for this one, where he has the motorcycle jump off a cliff, it's absolutely insane. And it got to that point where it was, he goes off. The whole audience just gasps for air, and it is one of those things where you're just like, oh my gosh. And he is really doing it. This isn't Marvel. This isn't a green screen, that we're not phoning in everything, and that's what I love about Tom Cruise, is that he doesn't half-ass anything, and for his career, he's always giving it his all. Every single time he's giving it his all. He is absolutely one of a kind. And I think he's still somehow underrated. People don't give him enough credit for what he does. He absolutely, is there to entertain the mass audiences. So had a lot of fun with the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. It starts off with the submarine scene, and we have this villain, which is it's like an AI villain, and the way without kind of giving too much away, the AI villain is able to basically, be artificial intelligence and work against the heroes and the villains, and you don't know what side they're really on, and they are on a chase to discover this and throw it to take down the AI machine. So it was highly entertaining, highly engaging. It was almost to the point where I was like, all right, this is too much. This is too intense, especially the crescendo of the leading up to the very last scene. There's a train sequence. That's about all I'm going to say, but there's so much action in this. It becomes almost to the point where it is overwhelming, and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, all right. Like, it's such an edge of your seat thrill ride. And I thought all the other characters were really great. Haley Atwell is a great addition to this story. I really let me share my screen here. So she was really awesome. Haley Atwell, I might low-key have a crush on this girl now. Like, she was really good at what she did in the movie, and she's a standalone character. And when you have new characters like this, like, you really you're kind of taking a gamble, because you don't know, you don't want to just add a character just to add a character. But she actually did a very good job with standing on her own ground. She is a bit of a pickpocket thief, and there's an airport scene in I believe they're in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, somewhere. It's a really cool futuristic airport, and we see her character, and they interact. But she did a fantastic job. We had Rebecca Ferguson, Isla Faust, who she came in Mission Impossible 5, and she has been in ever since. She's been a great addition to the squad. And then, of course, Vanessa Kirby, a.k.a. White Widow. She is fantastic as the broker. She's basically the broker between arms dealers and all these shady characters. And she's like the person that, is she bad? Is she good? Is she, whose side is she really on? It seems like she's not really the type to actually care. She just cares about making a deal and making both sides happy, which I guess that's what a broker does. They broker the deal. And then we have this gal, Pom Clementif. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize she was from the Guardians of the Galaxy. She plays that bug thingy. I don't know. I don't know all those Guardians of the Galaxy characters or anything, but she was fantastic. She was almost like this silent assassin, kind of like a Harley Quinn type that was chasing after Ethan Hunt the whole time. You could tell she was having a blast in this movie. She was driving this Hummer through Rome. And if you've seen in the previews where Ethan Hunt and Haley Atwell, so Haley and Grace are in the little Fiat, this tiny yellow Fiat. And of course, Pom is chasing in this huge Hummer, barreling through. You could tell she's having an absolute blast. She's like laughing, but like in this sinister laugh, like a bad girl or whatever. But she was absolutely fantastic. We got Rideshare Lisa in the building. What up, Rideshare Lisa? Have you seen the latest Mission Impossible movie yet? If not, I would like to recommend it. And of course, we got Simon Pegg. Now, I must say, people have told me several times, Tremaine, you look like Simon Pegg. I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. No, he looks like me. He looks like me. But finally, someone that looks like me is in a Mission Impossible movie. I've been waiting all these years, So, no, just kidding. So, he has been in the Mission Impossible series since episode 3. And he did a fantastic job as Benji. He's the technology guy. He's getting him out of sticky situations. And of course, Ving Rhames as well. He is always fantastic. It's always the dynamic between the three of them, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, and Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise. They are you could tell they are having an absolute blast with this movie. They're having fun, and they've been doing this for so many years. They have that camaraderie, and they really you could tell it really shines through. And everyone and speaking of shining through and camaraderie, like the amount of gravitas that this guy brings, um, Agent Kesich. Things are cut off here. Kittredge. So when Kittredge is here, like Kittredge adds like this crazy amount of gravitas to the series. He is fantastic. He has these like over the top lines. And if you recognize him from the first one, if you saw to get ready for this movie, I rewatched the first one, and he was the one that basically accuses, if you guys remember the first one, where Ethan Hunt goes on his mission and pretty much his whole team dies. It was like this complete horrible sabotage of the mission. And then he has a scene with Kittredge, this character, where Kittredge accuses Ethan Hunt of being the mole in IMF. And of course, that's when Ethan Hunt throws the gum at the aquarium and it blows up. He escapes and all that stuff. Classic scene from the movie from 30 years ago, guys. And think about how far this franchise has come. 30 years later, 7 movies in, and Tom Cruise is still at the top of his game. He is actually getting better, if anything, and he's still running at 61 years old. He's running through Venice with these crazy candles everywhere. There's a club scene, like the atmosphere that they bring you in on these movies. Like you feel like you're in this situation, and you, even though I mean, it's Mission Impossible, you feel like, you don't think Ethan Hunt is going to die. It's not those type of things where he does not. I at least I personally never think that Ethan Hunt is going to be ever in a situation where he's going to actually die. But he does get in really sticky situations. Always the bomb goes down to like 2 seconds or 1 second, and then they have to save the day somehow. And it's crazy to think about. Yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise is 61 years old. He turned 61 on the 3rd of July. He was not born on the 4th of July. He was born on the 3rd of July. And he looks young as ever, and he looks fantastic, and he's still bringing it to theaters. I mean, and you can tell this is a guy that he cares so much about the audience. He's not trying to give any type of political point of view. He's not trying to give you, he's not trying to convert us to Scientology, thank God, so that's good. This is just a joke, Tom. Okay, don't follow me over this, or don't kill me over this. But no, like he doesn't try to do anything. Oh, and by the way, he brought in a couple of characters from Top Gun Maverick. So this guy, Greg Tarzan, he was really great in this movie. He was also in Top Gun Maverick. So if you recognize him from Maverick, that's where he was. And of course, Charles Parnell. This guy adds a lot of gravitas. He was in Top Gun Maverick as well. He was the other side flight instructor, and he adds that level of gravitas to the film. And speaking of which, Cary Elwes plays the CIA director, and he is just having a blast. You could tell he's having a really good time with this role. And of course, the man behind The Princess Bride. You guys ever see Princess Bride back in the day? He is always oops, that is not what I meant to click on. He's 60, so it's crazy. So Cary Elwes is 60. He looks a lot older than Tom Cruise, but he still looks great. He looks great for his age. And he was definitely hamming it up, having a blast. This guy, Shea Wiggum, great character actor. Him and the other guy, Tarzan, from earlier, they're essentially chasing Ethan pretty much the whole movie. They're like always a step behind him, And the thing is about this movie is that not only does Ethan Hunt always have the bad guys against him, a lot of times he has his own organization against him, or there's some kind of CIA op that they're still going after him. They're not sure what he's doing because he's going rogue, doing his own thing. They're thinking that he's going against them, but he's actually really not, which it blows my mind because by this time, don't you think that Ethan Hunt is the type of character to just to do the right thing? I mean, we're 7 movies in, and they've accused him of double crossing, of committing treason pretty much every single movie. But he's not. He's not ever doing it. He's just he's doing his thing. He's completing his mission. He's doing what's right for the mission and for himself. And look, there's so many characters. Looking at this list here, there are so many different characters in this that really shine through, and that's what makes a really good movie, is when you have a lot of characters that are adding their own flair. They're not trying to be like another character. That's interesting. I don't actually recall this guy being in it. This guy was in Renfield. He was the lead character of Renfield, another movie that I loved. But Renfield is a completely different type of film than this. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. What I also loved about this is that, because it's called Part 1, I'm like, okay, so is it going to be like a Lord of the Rings Two Towers type thing where it just leaves you on a cliffhanger and it's just it doesn't really tell you anything, but this one does. It actually does stand alone. I mean, it's something that I think that's what they were going for. It's like, it could be its own thing. That there could be more to the story, and I cannot wait for the next one. I cannot wait for the sequel. It's going to be completely epic. But like what they did with this one, I mean, you could tell it wasn't just a setup for the sequel, because like other movies, the way they do it is they just really you could tell they're just making a movie just to make another movie. It's like a lot of these Marvel movies, it's like you just feel cheated at the end because it feels like it was just a whole teaser, like a long teaser trailer for another movie where now you have to wait another couple years for. But that was not the case with this one. There's a lot of movie in this movie. I believe it's 2 hours, 47 minutes, almost 3 hour long movie. So for a almost 3 hour long movie, if you include the credits, which by the way, the credits in my theater were 30 minutes long. 30 minutes long for credits? Guys, I get it. It's the #1 blockbuster movie of the summer. I'm calling it right now. I don't know. I think Barbie's going to do pretty well. Oppenheimer's going to do really well as well. But I really hope that Mission Impossible does the best out of all of them, because it really deserves it. You could tell they're having fun. They're giving it their all. They're doing their best to entertain their audiences. And I was speaking with my friend Sean, the Showstopper Valentino, yesterday, or he loves the series as well. And he was saying how we should just be so thankful for Tom Cruise himself, the fact that we're able to be in this era of where Tom is still around, still giving it his all. I mean, he's made more than enough money to be on a island. He could have disappeared on his own on an island and drinking daiquiris by now. He could have done that 20 years ago if he wanted to, but he's still always trying to top himself, always trying to do better. And watching a few of the interviews too, he says he nudges Christopher McQuarrie, whether it's a Mission Impossible movie or whether it's another one of the movies that they're working on. He always says to him, "We can be better," which is something that you want to see. You want to see these filmmakers strive. You want to see them strive to give audiences more. You want to see these filmmakers not just be there and phone it in. I have an aunt who's a fantastic aunt. She's so awesome. And she works on projects that, she tells me about afterwards, but during the time she can't really say. But there's some pretty big directors and huge films that she works on out in England, and she helps supervise a lot of the child actors, so that's her job out there. And she's told me about certain directors, and I won't name any names, but certain directors that show up and they're just like on their phones the whole time. They're like literally phoning it in. They're not even engaged with the whole story, with the action. They're just like there just to be there, just to collect a paycheck, which there are a lot of directors that are like that. You're making that much money, you don't have to put in that much effort into the movie. And guess what? the movies shines through. Like though, when she told me that, and when I see the movies, and now I'm talking about big budget movies that actually didn't do so well. She's worked on a bunch of big movies that do very well too, but it's not up to her at all or anything. But knowing that there are people that are phoning it in, and you realize, yes, that's usually why a movie doesn't do so well, because it looks like they're just trying to do a cash grab. They're just trying to do a quick and easy type thing. And with this Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, it's complete opposite. They're giving it their all. They actually filmed this at the height of COVID. I guess they had to delay it for so long because they were talking about filming in Venice, and the way they're filming in Venice, Italy, is no one has any cars in Venice. It's a river city. They're literally on the water, so I have to put everything on boats. They have to transport all the film gear on boats, and then they had to delay everything because of COVID. Then they came back and filmed the rest of it. So it's people have no idea how much time, effort, and energy it takes, and money it takes, and at this level, they have so much money. They could easily have green screened anything they wanted. They could have had Tom Cruise running on a treadmill with green screen behind him, and he could have gone to all the locations virtually, and they have the resources to do that. But they don't do that, and that's what I love about that. They stick to their guns with that. And there are CG things, but the CG, like if there's the train sequence, for example, like when they're on the top of a train and there's a tiny little gap, and there's some CG signs and stuff, you could tell, but it all looks really real. It just adds to the story. He's not using the CGI he's not using the CGI just to like as a crutch or anything like that. He's utilizing it to enhance the real stuff that they really do. For example, have you seen in the preview, Lisa, when he's driving, you see in the behind the scenes, he's driving on a ramp off the cliff in the motorcycle. And yeah, they built the whole ramp for it. And then in CGI, in post, they put him on a mountain. So he's driving off a mountain. So he uses it to enhance the story. He doesn't just rely on the story. He could have done both. He could have been a CGI Tom Cruise on a CGI bike on a CGI mountain and then driven him off, and you just wouldn't have been able to, you just can't really fake that. And especially I was watching a bunch of the stunt behind the scenes stuff. And they talk about in a Tom Cruise movie, like most movies when the movie star is doing a stunt, they do their best to hide the face of the star, because it's never the star. It's always the stunt double, right? So if it's, if you notice on certain action scenes when they cut away, or they're all of a sudden now they cut to way far away, so you can't really see his face, or it's behind them, so it looks like their body type, but there's something off about them and they don't really look like them. They make a point to do the opposite with the Tom Cruise movie. They want to make sure that the audiences know that it's Tom Cruise that's doing the stunt. They know that Tom Cruise is there actually performing the stunt. He's not a stunt double. There's no other people that are doing it, so that's what they do to enhance it. So they had cameras built in on the motorcycle. They had drones. They were talking about, they had so many tests where they were looking at the trajectory of Tom's launch when he went off the ramp, so they could have the drone at the right spot. So when he's launching, they have a drone here so they get the head-on shot of Tom, and then they also have one on the side angles of a camera literally on the bike, and so on and so forth. What I didn't see, what they haven't mentioned in the behind the scenes that I'm very curious about, is what happened to the bikes, because they talk about doing it I think they did 20 times or something like that. He drives the motorcycle off a cliff and with the motorcycle, so the motorcycle just drops and then he parachutes, down. So he obviously parachutes down, but the motorcycle just drops and just goes, I'm sure they had to go down and pick up every single one of them. I'm not sure how many they destroyed. I highly doubt any of those motorbikes survived the crash, but remember Roger Moore did his own stunts in 007 series. Oh, that's great. I didn't know that. That's cool. That's awesome, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, back in those days, a lot of the people really did those stunts, and I was watching another behind the scenes with Chris McQuarrie, where there's a movie called The Train, and it's like from early age cinema where they had these huge film cameras and zero technology, zero CGI, and they have train crashes and they have explosions, and then they have trains going off a cliff, and they've got train like buildings or bridges exploding with a train on it. Like, it's mind-boggling how they did it back then. It's almost way even more mind-boggling how they did it back then than it is how they do it now. But it's still mind-boggling how they do it now. And I must say, like, the train sequence in this, it is next level. It is something like, it is so. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is so intense and so crazy. Like, I wanted it. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, can this just stop, please? Can this just be done? But it was like more and more stuff happens, and then more, more things to add to the suspense, more things to add to the horror, and actually not to the horror, to to the intensity of the story. But another thing about Mission Impossible is that they're actually not afraid to kill off certain characters. It's not like a Marvel movie where they kill off the character and then, oh, guess what? The next day, the next scene, oh, they're alive again. Or, oh, we're just going to invent a machine to turn back time and then go back in time, and now they're alive again. Wow. No, it's not like that. Like, the characters, when they die, they die. In the third movie, there was a character played by Kerry Russell, I believe, and she had a character, she had a thing implanted in her brain. They tried to get it set off and they couldn't get it off in time, and she dies. And it adds to the gravitas of the film. It adds to the stakes. You raise the stakes, you raise the intensity of this movie. And I won't spoil who dies, but someone does die in this. Like, one of the main people dies in this, in this part. And so they're not afraid to go there. And that's what I like about that series. That's what I love about this series, is that they're not going to say, like, oh, then they came back, or oh, they were just a shadow. Like, yeah, they've had other characters that they allude to. Maybe they died, but then they never showed it or anything like that. But there's other times where, okay, no, they're dead. They're not going to come back from life. They're not going to be coming back. There's no way of them appearing as a ghost. Like, yes, you suspend your belief with this movie, but they don't go so, like, supernatural ways. Like, I haven't seen the new Indiana Jones movie yet, but I've heard that there's a lot of supernatural elements to it, kind of like the one before that was with the aliens, and where it's like, okay, I could dig the alien theme, but when it gets to the point where it gets so over the top or so supernatural, you just kind of loses a lot of the luster, and it loses a lot of the stakes that they're actually going for when it goes so over the top. Another expression is when they jump the shark. There's a certain movie that, I don't know if it was Jaws or something, where the shark, like, jumps like crazy, and it became a whole phrase. So they don't jump the shark. They know what they are. They're not trying to be campy. It's actual real action, real stakes, real thrills, and you can actually see them, like, hey, pulling off these crazy stunt via, whether it's the car, the train, the planes. I mean, they've done it all at this point. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, I highly recommend it. I give it 5 stars out of 5. Watch it in the theaters. Watch it in D-Box. If you have the guts to watch it in D-Box, watch it in D-Box. It's basically when they have the crazy shaky chairs. It's a lot of fun, and you feel like you're on a theme park kind of ride, and you're really engaged in the story. So I highly recommend it. Have you guys seen Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1? Let me know what you think in the comments below. This has been a nice movie review. By the way, I will be doing more movie reviews on this channel just to be more lighthearted and to bring some more content. We could talk movies about this. More updates coming soon about this channel. Right, Charlize, thank you so much for tuning in. Enoch Arden, thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you guys next time. Hit that like